I really like what you did with laying it out over the course of a week, because I think I can wrap my head around that. I can imagine that. I can picture that. I can plan for that. I would love to know, in your estimation, how much time would a person need to set aside, right? Because you had sort of started that with like, you work 9 to 5, you've got to pick up the kids, you've got all these other things that are either literally on your calendar or at least in your mental calendar of like, okay, I know I've got to do those things. And so if you were to say, if somebody's listening to this says, yes, sign me up for getting in the best shape of my life, what is the range of hours that they would need to be able to dedicate to do at least as a pretty darn close approximation to the framework you just laid out? We're talking like 4 hours a week, 7 hours a week, 12 hours a week. What do I need to be able to say I've got that in order to be able to pursue this?
Well, the framework I just laid out was 5 days a week.
Yep.
So the closer you can get to that, the better. And that's what I would start with. The goal is to try to get to that one. So again, 3 days a week of the weightlifting and the 15-minute, sub 15-minute. Then the 1 day a week of longer mixed modal and the 1 day of singular. That's 5 days a week. From a daily requirement, that would require 30 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. Now, not including warm-upping, cool down, and driving to the gym, but 30 minutes of training. So that means that it's hard to prescribe warm-ups because you talk to some people and they spend 2 hours warming up. Other people spend 2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes, yep.
Yeah. So from training time, this is 30 minutes of training time, which means that you would spend on the weightlifting days 15 minutes of weightlifting and 15 minutes or less of the high-intensity cardio stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is the longer one is 30 minutes and the run takes 30 minutes. That would be to get in ridiculous shape. It requires 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Mm-hmm. That's like getting in ridiculous shape. Yeah. Now, if you have the availability to spend 60 to 90 minutes, I'm not saying every day, but a couple days, be able to spend 60 to 90, then what we do is we take that base framework and you add in a couple other pieces. And most notably, those couple other pieces, the first one I would add in is getting good at carrying things. That's the next thing I would add in, is the ability to, carry/move things. And that means things like you're so much functional, maybe we should define that word, so much functional capacity, so much strength, so much your body takes an amazing shape. So this is for people like, I don't care if I can, carry 100 pounds, 400 meters without putting it down. That means nothing to me. I don't care about that. The shape your body takes, meaning the way your shoulders develop, the way your midline develops, meaning your abs, the way your legs and your calves, there's so much amazing aesthetics that come from that type of fitness that's the next place I would go to. I would add in 1 or 2 days a week where I would add in a little bit of this grunt work, a little bit of this durability work. Think sets of farmer's carries, sets of sled pushes, sets of carrying things certain distances. Mm-hmm. That also has such amazing carryover to both of the ends of the spectrum we're looking for. That is one of the best training mechanisms to get to improve your strength, because it's kind of what the West Side guys do. Some of the strongest human beings on the planet. They do tons of sled work. They just go and push sleds a lot. But it also helps a ton for the long endurance stuff, because again, it builds up so much durability, so much of this gait walking, but it's walking under load or under pressure. And that's basically the most functional thing that a human being can do is get from point A to point B. We're also built to carry things. That's one of the very unique things as us as a species is we can carry things. There's very few other animals that actually do that in nature. Certainly horses do it and camels do it, but there's very few. Yeah, because we make them, right? But there's very few other animals. Dogs, carry avalanche and they put the whiskey underneath or whatever's the bourbon, and in Switzerland they go and rescue people and give them shots. That next thing would be carrying. getting good at moving things. So if we were to stretch out a day beyond a half hour, that's the next place I would go, is with that. And if we were to go another place, then I would add in a little bit of lactic threshold work. So we've already done a lot of VO2 max. The next thing I would do is the biggest bang for your buck in terms of the cardio piece, which is lactic threshold. And this is where I think people miss it, is you hear so much conversation about zone 2. And the justification for zone 2 is people go, look what the most cardiovascularly fit athletes in the world do. So they take people like marathon runners and people that compete in the Tour de France. And they go, they spend upwards of 80% of their training week, sometimes 90% of their training volume in zone 2. So then they go and they prescribe that to the normal person. But what they're totally missing is the fact that those athletes are training for 3 to 4 hours a day. If you're training 3 to 4 hours a day, then yes, the majority of your time should be in zone 2. Correct. Mm-hmm. But if you are only training for 30 minutes a day, you will not get the same bang for your buck doing zone 2 for 30 minutes as you will from doing this other triphasic approach, which is this work on your strength, work 1 day a week on your zone 2, and then the majority of your time in this VO2. They should be flipping the question and going, what is the absolute time that those athletes are training in VO2? And what you might find is those endurance athletes, the best in the world, might be spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes a week in their VO2. Cool. Let's mimic that portion of their training because that's going to give the biggest bang for their buck. Now, if you have the availability and your goal is world-class cardiovascular fitness, then yes, what I'm saying is you're not going to win the Tour de France by doing this methodology. But our contention is for us to get into the best shape, which is you have this athletic build that is, they're going to live the longest in the zombie apocalypse. I don't want to be able to just bike away from them.
Yep.
I want to be able to do the other things.
2.5 hours-ish to get in the best shape of your life strikes me as an interesting argument to make because I think a lot of people hear that, get in the best shape of your life, and the thing in their head says, I don't have 15 hours to work out. I don't have 15 hours to go to the gym. I don't have 15 hours to train, however they might define that. And so that's really interesting to me for what you just laid out and say you need to be able to dedicate, let's just round up and say 3 hours of actual training time. Again, to your point, it's not driving to the gym. It's not warming up. But that strikes me as not what most people imagine you would say when they said, Ben, tell me how to get in the best shape of my life. I'm ready to dedicate whatever I need to do. Like I'm ready to be in the gym 20 hours a week if that's what it takes. And then you say, I need you to train for 3 hours a week. That to me is a paradigm shift.
Oh, I think for me, for our community, it is not for the layperson, not for the mass, because the mass hears 3 times a week of 15 minutes of cardio.
Yep.
That's what they've been told. In order to stay healthy, you need to be active. What is active? It is biking, gardening, walking for 15 to 20 minutes 3 times a week. So I think it depends on where you're coming from.
Totally.
But yes, that is our contention, is that in 2.5 hours, 3 hours a week, you can get into ridiculously good shape. Ridiculously good shape.